Andrew Flintoff is fit. That gets underway at 2:30. Teddy Sheringham has described Dimitar Berbatov's transfer to Manchester United as a fantastic move. The former England striker who left Spurs for United says the Bulgarian is the perfect player for the Reds. Meanwhile, Berbatov's former chairman at Tottenham, Daniel Levy, has urged the Premier League to review the system. The move to Old Trafford was completed after Levy agreed not to pursue a complaint against United for making an illegal approach for the player. Manchester City's game against Liverpool at Eastlands has been moved to Sunday the 5th of October at 3 p.m. That's because of their UEFA Cup fixtures. Newcastle have confirmed that talks are ongoing between the club's board and manager Kevin Keegan, who has neither been sacked or resigned. And in Rugby League, Wigan Warriors fullback Richie Mathers has signed a contract extension at the JJB, as have Cameron Phelps, Harrison Hansen and Lee Mossop.
Mark Hughes has not been sacked or resigned either. Sir Alex Ferguson's not been sacked and resigned. I think we need to go through them all for justice.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Diane Oxbury.
A sunny morning will be replaced by showers as you head through the day. I'm afraid around lunchtime these showers could merge together to give a longer spell of rain. Some of them could end up being quite heavy. There could be some thunder in there as well. The breeze picks up too, and it doesn't feel very warm. Your top temperature, 16 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hiya. Are you all right? Keegan, has he gone? Has he stayed? Will he go? Will he stay? Put your hand up if you give a toss. Nobody moved? Thought so. How are you? So am I. Yeah. He's a squeaky little... Isn't he, though? Isn't he?
I'd love it if they were neat. I'd love it. I'd love it.
Oh, dry your eyes and get on with it, you big curly-haired balm pot. Yes. Hello. How are you? Yeah, I'm as cheerful as ever. Are you all right? Good. Telephone number 2. Well, I can't be doing with it. I just can't. What's the modern expression? I say I can't be doing with it. It does me head in. I think that's the phrase. It does me head in. No, I don't think I'll... No, I'm not going to adopt that. Not by any means. Right. Telephone number, let's get that sorted. 0161. I get told off. I get told off for not telling you the number. Management here think you're thick. They think you can't remember it. It's not me, I promise you. No, it's not me. I tell you at the beginning, if you can't remember it, sod you. But they think you've not the wit to write it down. Anyway, 0161 22... I never said any of that, obviously, if anyone asks you. No word at all. I don't want to be in the evening news. 0161 228 2255. The email address, radiomanchester at bbc.co.uk, I think. Yeah. And the text number, 07786 206 951. That's it. Sorted. We're all underway now. Can I just get this out of the way first? Well, I can, because I'm in charge. I don't know why I asked. Yeah. Gordon asks a simple question. Do you need a Performing Rights Society licence if you use the internet to listen to music? Well, Gordon, it's not as simple as that, as you might have guessed. You don't ever need a licence to listen to music. You don't. You can just listen to it. However, to play music for other people, you need a licence. So, for example, if you have the radio on in the workplace and there's not just you working there, you need a performing rights licence. You have the radio on, or have background music or music in a shop or a lift, you need a PRS licence. How you access that music, whether you get it off tape, whether you get it off the radio, whether you record it off the radio and play it back, whether you access it via the internet, is irrelevant. For a performing rights, there's a clue in the title, Performing Rights Society licence. If you perform the music, and playing the radio to others is performing the music by definition. If you perform the music to others, you need a licence. If you merely listen to it for your own personal and your close proximity family's use, then you don't need a licence. But you might need to pay for the music, but that's another story. But the actual playing of it and listening to it, no. You don't have to, just to listen to it, whether it's on the net, on the radio, the television, or anywhere else. But whoever's putting it on the net should pay. Whoever's putting it out on the telly will pay. The radio pays. If they're playing it at a football match, the football ground needs a licence. So that's how it works. All right? So we've got to the bottom of that. You see, we're a font. We're a font. You could dip your hand on us in the way into church. We're an absolute font. Derek in Lee said, it took 2 minutes to go home to the Magic Roundabout at the Parsonage Retail Park in Lee en route to work. Now the kids are back at school. This 1 mile journey takes 10 minutes. Child obesity at record levels. Why don't the ankle biters and their invariably fatter parents walk? They will when the government delivers on their aim and introduces road pricing, as the roads will be empty, as almost no one can afford to use them. And Phil says, in reply to a caller on Tuesday about City's ground, you will find that an enquiry was made at the time by many United fans wanting the stadium, but United paying council tax to Trafford Council made this a no-go. The guy is a bit bitter, methinks. And Guy says, hi, Alan, I bet you couldn't name all the managers in the Premier League. Well, we can go further than that. If I felt that I could name all the managers in the Premiership, I think I would happily kill myself.
Join in the congestion conversation.
Tomorrow morning, we're outside Rochdale Railway Station. I'm Jonathan Alley. Come and tell me what you think about Greater Manchester's big decision.
Charge or no charge? Tell us what you think. Manchester's congestion charge station is BBC Radio Manchester.
So there. It's all going awfully well. We have it in control. Yeah. There's a programme on the telly tonight which I'm hoping to watch. Actually, I'm going to Liverpool this afternoon. I'm going to see Le Machine. Oh, God, yes. Apparently, at the moment, it's a big spider hanging on the side of a building. I'm going to have a look. That's going to be fantastic, is that? I missed the elephant. I did. When I say I missed the elephant, I don't mean I was pining. I was lonely and merely wanted an elephant. I mean, I think that's illegal. And even if it wasn't, I couldn't reach. No, what I mean is that I didn't see the... What do you mean, what elephant? Where have you been? Crying out loud. Look, what... There's this firm. It's 2 women. And they make these puppets, but they're like 50 foot high. And they made a elephant with a girl, another puppet, a girl, sitting astride its back. And it wandered through London. And it stopped the traffic. Well, it would. A 60-foot elephant had stopped me bloody driving, I tell you. Stopped the traffic, it did. And they're doing it again, only not with a elephant. They haven't told anyone where it's going to be, because they like a little secret. And as part of Liverpool's capital of culture, this is supposed to be an artwork, but it's a moving artwork. And they're having Le Machine in Liverpool this weekend, and it sort of breaks out and starts on Friday night. But I can't go Friday night. Well, I might be able to, I don't know. But on Saturday I'm going. But they've already started it, and they've had to dig roundabouts up and everything so that this big thing, whatever it is, can get through. And I'm going to see it tonight because it's already in existence in the form of a spider, which is about the size of a building. And I'm going to have a look at it tonight. Well, this afternoon. Yeah. It sounds absolutely fabulous. I'm really looking forward to it. And you don't often hear me say that. I'm really looking forward to going to Liverpool. I don't look forward to it a lot. I can't think why, really. No. Ah, well. 0161 228 2255. Hang on, I'm always... Look, if you're sending me an email, it's best if you don't make it 20 pages long, because I really can't read all that. So, Nicholas, if you want to resend a smaller version of your email, I'll read it. It's a reference to Jamie Bulger. But I can't read it all. They're just that, A, there isn't time, and B, I don't think people turn the radio on to listen to me reading an email out for the next 5 hours, which is what it'd take. But in Précy, do you remember February 1973 in England when a young boy of 3 was taken from a Liverpool shopping centre by 2 10-year-old boys? Jamie Bulger walked away from his mother for only a second. John Venables took his hand and led him out of the mall with his friend Robert Thompson. They took Jamie on a walk for over 2.5 miles along the way, stopping every now and again to torture the poor little boy who was crying constantly for his mummy. And then it goes on. Well, we all remember the story, and unless you've got a reason for us to remember it now, unless there's some conclusion, then I'm not really sure what the point is and why we should remind ourselves of the horror that exists in our society. I don't see the point of that. Unless there's a purpose and your email appears not to have a purpose other than just to get us to remember it all. Nicholas, thank you very much. As I say, if you'll tell me what the point is, then I will consider it again, but and if you make it a bit shorter as well. And you might be interested in this. Frankly, I won't be going. Are you... Well, I've had my say about the honours system. I think the honours system is pop. I think it's patronising rubbish, to be honest, but there you are. But if you have any interest in it at all, and I ought not to tell you this because it's a meeting that takes place at lunchtime on Thursday, the 25th of September. So what's that? That's 3 weeks tomorrow, isn't it, really? Anyway, 3 weeks tomorrow at the Town Hall in Manchester, the Lord Lieutenant, who's a smashing bloke, by the way, a bloke called Warren Smith, cracking bloke, will be joined by Dennis Brennan from the Ceremonial Office at Buckingham Palace. And the idea is that those two will give you some insight, or give those who attend, some insight into how the honours system works in our country. Now, as I say, my view is it's a waste of space, but that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And what Warren Smith says, the Lord Lieutenant says, there's a great deal of misunderstanding surrounding the honours system, and this is a fantastic opportunity to hear how the system works and where to find out more information and to ask the experts questions. Well, feel free, but there it is. It's 3 weeks tomorrow. If you fancy it, go along to the Town Hall. It's free, and you can hear all about the honours system. And if you know who to slip the money to, you might even get one, you never know. And then, before we get underway proper, we did this the other week with cars, do you remember? We were talking about the benefit, or otherwise, of switching off the engine of your car as it ran downhill, and then starting it up again at the bottom of the hill to make the journey. And it was decided that you used less fuel. I've probably got this entirely the wrong way round, but it was decided, if I remember correctly, we decided that you used less fuel if you kept the engine running going downhill than if you... Or was it in gear? That was it, yeah, it was cruising in gear, wasn't it? Yes, that's it. If you went down the hill in gear, but with the engine running, you used more fuel than if you went down the hill out of gear and the engine running. In other words, if it was just turning over. Because going downhill, the motion of the vehicle turns the engine over, and thus there's no fuel required to turn the engine over. The motion downhill is doing it. Why am I mentioning it now? Well, you may have heard in the news that one of the rail companies is suggesting, by way of a few months' experiment, is suggesting that train drivers turn off the engine of the train going downhill in order to save fuel. Now, I'm not a scientist, and I know absolutely nothing about trains. I was never even a train spotter. But if the train's going downhill and the engine's turned off, Isn't that just a little bit dangerous? They don't let you cruise your car with the engine turned off. Well, if you did with your modern car, you'd crash because you wouldn't be able to turn the bloody steering wheel, would you? Because of the power steering. But they don't really have steering wheels on trains, so that's not an issue. But if it's freewheeling downhill, turned off, isn't that kind of out of control? Now, again, I say, you know, I mean, the railway, it's a privileged place, if you like. There's nobody else meant to be there. But I find that a little bit scary. But then, as you know, I'm very easily scared. It's just after 12:20, BBC Radio Manchester. The news headlines, Mark Edwardson.
The publishers of Ricky Hatton's autobiography have agreed an out-of-court settlement of £115,000 after the promoter Frank Warren claimed it contained 3 libellous allegations about him. Scotland's First Minister Alex Salmons promised to abolish council tax there as part of his legislative plans for the coming year. And the school's secretary, Ed Balls, has said he's frustrated by the delays in processing educational maintenance allowance grants for teenagers. Manchester's weather, showers, some sunshine, highs of 16 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Well, all seems quiet on the motorways around the areas at the moment. We're not doing too badly on the M62 from Junction 9 at Winnick through to Junction 12 at the Eccles interchange, all moving fairly freely as well over the elevated section of the Mancunian Way from Regent Road over towards Piccadilly. Let's take a look to the train situation then, and there's an amended timetable in operation for the rest of the month on Virgin train services, whilst Network Rail carry out engineering works on the tracks between Manchester Piccadilly and London Euston. So the best bet really is to check with National Rail inquiries before you travel for further updates. Don't forget, of course, if you can update me further, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Carl Banks.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Right, do you remember the Magpies? Oh, crying out loud. Here we go. Somebody has sent me the formal control methods according to the Wildlife and Countryside Act 1981. Here we go. This is from Albert. Thank you, Albert. I'll live in your debt for the remainder of my days. I'll read it to you because it's half interesting. Under annual general licence issued under the Wildlife and Countryside Act 1981 by DEFRA, for which it is not necessary to apply individually, magpies can be killed or taken by authorised persons using permitted methods for the purposes of preventing serious damage to agricultural crops or livestock, preserving public health, air safety, and conserving wild birds. So who is an authorised person? Well, it deals with that. An authorised person is a landowner or occupier, somebody acting with the landowner or occupier's permission. It is not permissible to kill birds for sport or for any other reason. So you can kill magpies, but you've not got to enjoy it. I don't know how they test, but never mind. Acceptable control methods include the use of wire cage traps with spring-loaded doors designed to catch the bird alive. It can be baited with food or even another magpie alive, providing the decoy bird is humanely treated and given water and food daily. The trap must be checked regularly at least every 24 hours, and any magpie or crow caught will be humanely destroyed. Any non-target species must be released. Magpies may be shot, again, only by a landowner or someone acting blah, 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 for the purposes. Shooting must be well away from public roads and houses, so is seldom possible in urban areas. It's also legal to destroy a magpie's nest, even if it's in use. However, old magpies' nests are often used by protected species, such as long-eared owls in rural areas and blackbirds in suburban areas, so check very carefully first. There you are. So you can kill magpies, you can't shoot them randomly, and you certainly are not allowed to enjoy it. So there. Rick says, I can't believe you missed the elephant. He won't forget, you know. Now that's funny. That's
Talking
funny.
sense every lunchtime. Allan Beswick.
He won't forget. Dear God.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Bernard in Northwich. Hiya, Bernard.
Diane. That's a little bit of a little border. We have a sign alongside the River Weaver here which says Groeso e Cymru. And underneath it tells you are welcome to Wales, although this is mid-Cheshire. Right, getting on to the freewheeling and all the rest of it.
Oh, yes, right.
If the vehicles were fitted with a Borg-Warner gearbox, either on the trains or on the motor vehicles, there is a freewheel position on a Borg-Warner gearbox, which was used extensively in the Wolseley 6110 Mark II. And a very, very useful thing it was, particularly if you were driving in Wales.
For the downhill bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need to switch your engine off. The gearbox does the freewheeling for you.
Yeah, I grasp that, but if you're freewheeling, what the discussion we had on the programme some weeks ago, we seem to end up concluding, because lots of people had alternative points of view, indeed exactly opposite points of view, but we seem to end up concluding that putting your vehicle in freewheel or neutral, whichever way you want to describe it, putting your vehicle in that, you actually used more fuel than if you used the vehicle in gear, for the reasons I gave earlier, but I'll just repeat them in case you missed them, and that is, this is not my theory, this is the theory that scientists were giving us, but if you're going downhill with the vehicle in gear, the engine is turned over not by the fuel, petrol in most vehicles, diesel, not by the fuel, but by the momentum of going downhill, making the wheels go round, the wheels are connected to the gearbox are connected to the engine is turned over by the motion, the propulsion of gravity. Whereas if you disconnect it via the gearbox, in other words you freewheel, the engine still continues to run, but it runs ticking over, as we call it, and that uses fuel. So there's fuel being used to turn the engine over. Whereas if it's in gear, no fuel is used to turn the engine over because the engine is being turned over by momentum. That was what the conclusion was. Now, the fact that there was a thing on an old Wolseley that allowed you to do it doesn't change the science, does it?
Well, science can prove anything it wants to.
Well, physics tends not to do that. A lot of the projective sciences do, but physics tends not to do that. Physics are fairly straightforward.
Yes, I think you've got a difficult position there with a motorist who has been listening to this, who will then lean forward and turn the ignition key off.
Well, if a person did that, they would, A, be breaking the law. In fact, using your vehicle, you see, you can't use the word driving technically, but propelling your vehicle or I'll have to use the word driving, I can't think of another, but driving your vehicle in neutral is actually an offence. It's actually an offence. You are not allowed to freewheel your vehicle.
Really?
Yeah.
Where is this written?
I've no idea where it's written, but...
It's not something you just heard over the pub counter?
No, it's not. It's actually something I learned as a driving instructor some years ago, when I had to study such matters. But which document it is contained in, I suspect it's contained in the Vehicle Construction and Use Regulations that began round about 1958. But which particular act it is in and which document, statutory instrument or otherwise, I couldn't quite say at the moment. But if I'm just wondering whether I have a document in my filing cabinet here that would tell me the answer to that question, and then I thought, well, I don't need to, because I know it's an offence.
You don't. See, the other point about all this is the modern vehicles that are being developed are going to be with electric power as well as fuel.
Yes.
And the principle, somebody was saying on the radio yesterday about some form of motorbike or motorised cycle, which you start off by pedalling, and then that puts some juice into the battery, and then you don't have to pedal anymore. It's driven by the battery. I don't quite see that, but maybe one of your...
Oh, yes, that's how it works. When you ride your bicycle, it would appear that you're generating exactly the amount of energy you need to make the vehicle go along. So what they've done is they've put what we used to call a dynamo on the vehicle, and as you pedal a little bit harder than you normally would, I'm led to believe, although of course, well, you use more energy. You're not pedaling harder because of the gear ratios, but you use more energy, and the extra energy you use is then stored, as I think they call it, no, it's not kinetic energy, electronic energy, if you like, chemical energy in the battery, and then when you get on a bit where you could do with a bit of resistance, or indeed where you might want to just relax altogether and let the bike do the work, you cash your chips in, as it were. The bike then does the work instead.
It's a marvellous programme, this, Alan.
Well, I find it fascinating what I learn sat here, something new every day. All this came out, of course, of the news story that one of the railway companies are telling their drivers, and there's the difference between what we've just been talking about and the story, telling their drivers to turn their train engines off. In other words, to switch the ignition off, if you like, of their diesel engines. Going downhill, it will save diesel, which it may, because, of course, the engine's then off. But I'm concerned, why should I be? We have scientists for this, but I'm concerned that the train is then effectively out of control.
Naturally. Brakes don't work.
Well, it depends on the kind of brakes, doesn't it? The brakes may well work. I don't know enough about trains. I just raise it as a question.
Yes, well, I think we've got away from Westinghouse brake and signal. We've now got some Japanese system or something now. We don't have the good old Westinghouse brake. So I think we need to go further into this.
Well, I think we may. Science interrupts us from time to time. For example, Derek in Lee has just sent me a text saying, Alan, trains have, now it looks like a 319-litre diesel engine. I don't know, but that's what it looks like. Doesn't sound like a lot to me, that. But it has a 319-litre diesel engine. The technology exists for sensors to put one in neutral when it's not under load, i.e. going downhill. Well, if that technology exists, Derek, why is the train company asking drivers to turn the engine off? Anyway, thank you very much, Bernard.
My pleasure. Thank you for your programme.
And you. Thank the BBC for the programme. I just do it. Alan, no parking charges at hospitals. No council tax. Should we all move to Scotland, says John in Warrington. My experience of Scotland, if we get up there, there'll be nobody there. They're all down here. Terry in Rochdale. Hiya, Terry.
Hello, and yeah, before I get onto my subject matter, may I just say something about the last speaker?
Yeah.
Why it's dangerous to run with your ignition switched off on a car, because you lose your brake servo assistance. Your brakes don't work.
Well, well, they work less well, but that's true today. But when the legislation was framed, that wasn't true. We didn't have pneumocyclic gearboxes, and we didn't have, I've forgotten the proper name for them, but air brake assisted gearboxes on cars in those days. It was the straightforward manual, press the pedal and pump the cylinders to make the brakes work only under physical pressure.
Right.
So that's when it was introduced. But yes, you're right, your brakes would be less useful, and as I say, your steering would be, in most cars these days, modern cars, would be absolutely knackered. Anyway, go on, Terry.
Yeah, you were talking yesterday, I missed most of the programme, unfortunately, but you were talking about whether you could kill magpies and things, and he wasn't sure, and one guy was adamant that you could, and things like that, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at Wild Birds in the Law, a publication by the RSPB, yeah?
Yeah.
And they list, there's 4 schedules of birds. I won't go into all of them. I'll just deal with the second schedule. And these are wild birds which may be killed or taken at all times by an authorised person. And it starts with a bullfinch and finishes up with a wood pigeon. And if you want me to mention all 21 birds, I'll tell you them.
No, you're all right. I don't need all 21, but there's a whole list of it. Where's the magpie? Tell me about that.
Well, it's in the magpie, yeah. It's in alphabetical order. Jackdaw, a lot of people won't think you could kill jays, but you can.
Mm.
Jay, magpie, merganser, oystercatcher, raven, rook, rock dove, shag, house sparrow, starling, wood pigeon, stock dove, bullfinch, common, carrion crow, hooded crow, domestic pigeon gone wild, collared dove, goosehander, great black gull, lesser black gull.
You did do them all in the end, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
You were determined.
Yeah, I was.
So there you go. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of them, actually.
Yeah, there are.
But well, I mean, bullfinch was a surprising one, you know. It's a lovely little bird. But in some areas of the country we can kill them. It's because they decimate apple orchards.
Well, maybe so, but frankly, I'd rather have the bullfinch than the apple.
You wouldn't if you grew apples for a living.
If I grew apples for a living, I'd think, well, perhaps I ought to get a different job if I've got to be killing birds to do it. But there you are. Yeah, what we need to repeat, of course, is what we said earlier, and that is when I read that piece from the Countryside Act that told us, A, the rules of dispatching the birds to which you refer, and also the process about when and where and who can do it. And it turned out that certainly shooting them was not really something that would be suitable in an urban area, because you'd be too close to houses. Unless you trapped them first, you know. Anyway, thank you for that. Thank you for that litany of soon-to-be-dead birds. Good on you, Terry. And the most important thing about the Countryside Act is if you are going to kill all these birds, rather like me with my squirrels, you mustn't enjoy it. You're not allowed to do it for sport. No. Apparently you can shoot peers for sport, because all those peers years ago used to hunt with dogs, so I think that's allowed. I'm not sure. Harry in Great Moor. Hiya.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Harry.
Well, just a quickie.
Okay.
The gentleman that's just been on to you.
What, the birds or the trains?
Oh, the freewheeling.
Right.
Some years ago I restored an old Riley 9, and that had the Borg-Warner gearbox.
Right.
And the freewheel lever was on the steering column. But they went under a special series, and the name of the gears there was called Sun and Planetary.
Sun and Planetary?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
And as you went downhill, you just pull the lever and freewheel. But as you say, it is an offence to do it now. But all the Riley cars, Riley 9s, have this gearbox.
Right. Well, a pal of mine had a Riley Elf, but he wasn't worried about freewheeling. He was more worried about keeping the doors on.
Yeah, true that.
Because he had a Riley Elf, and in order to keep the doors shut, he used to have a string that went round the window frame. He had to have the window open slightly, and he had a washing line that went round the window frame, and then it went across the car to the other side, and he tied it. And that was how he kept the doors shut. I'm not sure it was legal,
no.
But it worked.
On the old Riley 9s, these are 1935 cars, 33 to 35, they were solid. I mean, when they were stripped down, the chassis was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I've got plenty of photographs of it. I miss it, actually. Now.
You miss it? Yeah, we all think that first car we bought, if we'd have got it in good nick and put it in the garage, we'd have made a fortune, wouldn't we?
Yeah, well, this one, I only give £80 for it.
80 quid? Aye, but when?
1980. And I stripped it right down, cut through the bare chassis and rebuilt it.
Good Lord.
And sold it for £1,200.
Well, that's a way forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're all interested now. We can make money at it. It's suddenly got a lot more interesting. Good on you, Harry.
Thanks for the programme.
Thank you, sir. 0161 228 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Just pick up your phone and tickle the keys and all of that. You can do it via the internet as well, of course. That's Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, but nothing longer than 50 pages, please. And text 07786 206 951. See? We like to make it easy. No, we're not offending you. We're making it easy so that I can understand it. There we go. I don't know why I've been sent this. Alan, I have a dim memory of early Saabs, and they have a freewheel facility. I do say that this is a free and open programme, and we'll talk about anything, but I think it's important to state here and now, I'm not Jeremy Clarkson. I know bugger all about cars. I know that it's always better to sit at the front if you're going to drive it. I know it's best if you sit in the chair that has a wheel in front of it. Beyond that, you know, I get a bit... And certainly when you start opening doors that people don't use, like bonnets and all that stuff under there, all that rattly stuff that gets dirty dead quick, I try not to trouble myself with that. However, I will... Is that what an engine looks like when it's out? Good God. This gentleman has sent me information about the Saab, and one of the reasons for low petrol consumption, this is about the Saab, a 95, is the free wheel which disengages the engine when you ease off the throttle. The engine will then run at idling speed. Well, I'm good at idling, that's for sure. It's just gone 20 to 1. BBC Radio Manchester News Headlines. Mark Edwardson.
The boxing promoter Frank Warren's accepted libel damages of £115,000 from the publishers of Ricky Hatton's autobiography, which Warren claimed contained 3 defamatory allegations. A mother from Bolton's appealing for financial help after an insurance firm refused to fly her son back from Thailand following a moped accident. The US military has killed 6 members of the Iraqi security forces near Baghdad in what's been described as a case of mistaken identity. Manchester's weather: showers this afternoon, some brighter spells, top temperatures of 16 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
We still have a speed restriction of 50 miles per hour in force on the M6 both ways between 19 Knutsford and junction 20 at Lymm. It's after a bridge was damaged earlier on last week. It's scheduled to be removed during the night on Saturday, I should say, this weekend. So for the time being, as I say, traffic being slowed down to 50 miles per hour, which I'm sure will cause problems during the evening peak today. And now to Cheadle and Kingsway on the A34. Is 1 lane down between Wilmslow Road and the M60 junction 3, which is affecting traffic either side of the carriageway from Parswood through to Cheadle. Don't forget, if you can update me, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Good afternoon. Well, let's start with the cricket. Lancashire have gone in for lunch on day 1 of their county championship match at Durham. Of course, an early 10:30 start. Chris Malaban's at the Riverside.
Durham 100 for 3 at lunch, with Will Smith on 36 and captain Dale Benkenstein on 4. Not a bad morning's work in the end for Lancashire, but for long periods it looked like they were going to be second best. They struck early with a rather bizarre run-out. Michael DiVenuto going for 2. He drove the ball back up the pitch, only to see it deflect off non-striker Mark Stoneman. It ran out to Stephen Croft in the covers. DiVenuto was stranded and Croft ran him out. Stoneman and Will Smith then put on a partnership that was worth 69 for the second wicket, and again it was a run-out that broke that. Dominic Court with an excellent throw on the turn from deep mid-off, running out Stoneman for 47. That brought Shivnarine Chanderpaul to the crease, the West Indian Test player who struggled for form for Durham this summer, and he went again without scoring LBW to Tom Smith for naught. Smith with 1 for 14 has been the pick of the Lancashire attack, without Gary Keady, of course, in this game, who's been left out in favour of an all-pace battery. Lunch here at the Riverside. Durham having been put in by Stuart Law, 100 for 3.
Thanks, Chris. More from Chris throughout the afternoon here on BBC Radio Manchester. Well, England are going for the series whitewash. They face South Africa for the final one-day international in Cardiff. A win will lift Kevin Pietersen's side into second place in the world rankings. Lancashire's Andrew Flintoff is fit, and England batsman Ian Bell says Freddie's form has also been key to England's recent success.
You know, to have Andrew Flintoff in your side is a bonus. When he's playing well, it's even bigger bonus. You know, I think that he thinks the best of him is still to come. If he keeps playing like this, I think he's pretty much spot on. You know, he's 100% fit and batting well. Being in the team, he's a leader in himself as well, the way he goes about his cricket.
Well, Dimitar Berbatov insists he didn't join Manchester United for more money, but because they're the biggest club in the world. The Bulgarian says, if I wanted to play for money, I would have accepted the offer from Manchester City or Chelsea. Meanwhile, his former chairman at Tottenham, Daniel Levy, has urged the Premier League to review the system. The move to Old Trafford was completed after Levy agreed not to pursue a complaint against United for making an illegal approach for the player. Well, Teddy Sheringham's described Berbatov's transfer to Old Trafford from White Hart Lane as a fantastic move. The former England striker, who left Spurs for United in 1997, says the Bulgarian is the perfect player for what they need.
In his own way, he's very critical of himself and his players, but there'll be no need to be critical at Man United, so I'm sure he'll love it. It's an absolutely fantastic move. move for him, and I think exactly the same for the club as well. He's the perfect player for what they need. I've loved watching him for the last couple of years at Tottenham. I think he's a fantastic talent, and he sort of glides around in his own sort of time, but he makes it look so effortless, but gets the results as well, and I think it's a great move for all concerned.
United goalkeeper Ben Foster continues his comeback from injury against Bury in the Manchester Senior Cup this afternoon. Youngster Rafael da Silva, who's made a first-team appearance this season, also starts. Glyn Hurst, Steve Haslam and Danny Ratchie are in the Shakers team. Kick-off at Gig Lane is 2 o'clock. Manchester City's new signing Robinho wants to bring the Premier League title to Eastlands. The Brazilian says there's a great team here and this is an exciting project. Robinho also said the chance to team up with his international teammates Joe and Elano was a key factor in his decision to join the Blues. Well, City's trip to Cyprus in the UEFA Cup on September the 18th. That'll kick off at 6 o'clock UK time. The return on Thursday, the 2nd of October, will start at 7:45. Of course, the weekend's match at Liverpool will now be played on Sunday, the 4th, at 3 o'clock. Newcastle have revealed they're in talks with manager Kevin Keegan about his future at St James's Park. The 57-year-old's 8-month reign looked over yesterday with claims he'd either resigned or been sacked. But the club insists Keegan, who didn't take training today, still remains in charge. A new statement issued in the last hour reads, both the club and Kevin would like to reiterate that Kevin remains a manager and he's not resigned or hasn't been sacked. Well, former Wigan midfielder Jimmy Bullard has said he never gave up the possibility of playing for his country following his first England call-up. The 29-year-old, now with Fulham, is in Fabio Capello's squad for the World Cup qualifiers against Andorra and Croatia, and says he always hoped his chance might come.
Definitely, I've always had the belief there, you know. My dad's helped me with that. You never know who's watching, so they finally come. I made the squad. I remember it like yesterday. I was playing for Gravesend and Northfleet. £60 a week I was getting, which was a good contract then. It has been a long way round, you know, but it's been awesome times playing football, you know, and to finally get a call up for your country is fantastic.
Meanwhile, England have dropped one place to 15th in the latest FIFA World Rankings and are now just one place ahead of Scotland. Northern Ireland stay 32nd, Wales dropped down 2 places to 53rd, and European champion Spain have retained top spot, while Italy replaced Germany in 2nd. In Rugby League, Wigan Warriors fullback Richie Mathers has signed a contract extension at the JJB, as have Cameron Phelps, Harrison Hansen and Lee Mossop. In Rugby Union, New Zealand warmed up their Tri-Nations game against Australia by thrashing Samoa by 101 points to 14. That was in Wellington. The All Blacks ran in 15 tries. And finally, in the tennis, Andy Murray will be aiming to reach his first Grand Slam semi-final this evening when he faces Argentina's Juan Martín del Potro.
And this story's just come in, and I love it, if only for the bloke's name. Fulham goalkeeper Antinimi has announced his retirement. I've got an Anti-Am, but I've never had an Anti-Nimi.
Do you want a proper pronunciation?
Oh, go on then.
Anti-Niemi.
He's still anti, though, isn't he?
He is.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
We'll have cricket all day for you, of course, from Lancashire's game at Durham. Then it's Saints against Wigan on Friday night from 7.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Anti-Niemi. Fantastic. I can't make my mind up whether it sounds like your dad's sister or something on the menu in an Italian restaurant. What a great name. Good on him, I say. Steve in Trafford Park. Hiya, Steve.
Hiya, Alan. How are you doing?
Not bad.
I'm just going to tell you first of all, I think you're absolutely correct about that freewheeling being illegal.
Yes.
Whether the law's been changed, I don't know how you heard about whether the law has been changed, but it is illegal. I'm almost sure of it.
It is, because you're not in control of the vehicle.
Exactly. The reason I rang you, Alan, I'm a truck driver. I've spoken to you before. The vehicle I drive is 12-month-old, and the engine management is completely computerised. All in aid of saving fuel, yeah?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah,
I know
I'm
you're listening.
listening.
Yeah. It's all in aid of saving fuel. Everything's about saving fuel and fuel economy and all, as you know. What my vehicle does, it has a computer readout on the dashboard. And it tells you what it is doing to the gallon on the average at all times, but it also tells you exactly what the fuel, what fuel you were using at that specific second. Yeah?
Yeah.
So if you was going up a hill, it might show you that it is doing 3.2 to the gallon. If you're going downhill, it'll show you that it's doing 40 to the gallon. You understand, yeah?
I do, yes.
whatever position that vehicle is in, it will tell you exactly at that precise second.
So you get a readout of that moment's consumption. Yeah, I've got that.
Yeah, you get a readout of the average, and you get a readout of what it is doing at that specific time.
Specific time, yes.
Yeah. But what it also does, which is getting to your freewheeling point,
Go on.
if you're going down a long hill, what it will do, it will disengage the automatic gearbox from the engine completely.
Yeah.
But it will also do one better than that. It will cut off electronically the fuel pump.
Ah, well, that's yes. If you do that, that's fine.
Yeah, and what it does then is where it would show you the consumption at that specific moment, it goes to 3 dashes, which means no fuel at all.
No fuel being used, no, because it's turned off.
Because, like you said before correctly, the momentum of the vehicle is pushing that engine round.
Yeah.
So,
but all the other things still work.
Exactly. The engine is still being pushed by the sheer momentum of the weight of the vehicle.
Yeah. And so the engine, and because the engine at that moment has been told by the system, don't suck any fuel in.
Because you don't need it.
Because you don't need it, it won't. But of course, if you haven't got that system, is it legal? Yes, because the thing that's illegal, and I've been looking for it while you've been speaking, and I've found it in the Highway Code. The thing that's illegal, and somebody sent me in the right direction by sending me the word coasting, and that's what's illegal. The term describes a vehicle, this is coasting, describes a vehicle travelling in neutral or with the clutch pressed down. Do not coast, whatever the driving conditions, because it reduces driver control, because engine braking is eliminated. Vehicle speed downhill will increase quickly. Increased use of the foot brake can reduce its effectiveness. Steering response will be affected on bends and corners particularly, and it'll be more difficult to select the appropriate gear when needed. So they tell you in the control of vehicle section of the Highway Code not to coast. They don't tell you it's illegal, but I know that it is.
The thing is with this vehicle, it also does, which covers its arse, if you don't mind me saying, the braking system is also run by the computer on the exhaust brake, which you'll be aware of what that is.
Yeah.
So what it actually does is it's automatic, it has no clutch. So if the vehicle is going down a hill, it checks itself at 52 mile an hour all the way down.
Yeah.
The computer will say it's overrunning. The exhaust brake will automatically come in and slow the vehicle down. Yeah. So I suppose that way it covers itself legally that way.
Did you ever in your time as a HGV driver ever drive a vehicle with a Telmar?
A Telmar?
A Telmar brake. I think it was Telmar. It was the electromagnetic braking system.
That's a new one on me, Alan.
Yeah, well, what it was, it used to have two sides. The drive shaft running under the vehicle was split. It was broken, as it were. It was in two parts.
Yeah.
And on each of the two parts, it went into a box. And in the box was two electric magnets. And what happened was, when you flicked the Telmar switch, you switched on the electromagnetism, and the electromagnetism slowed down the two sides, if you like, of the drive shaft.
Something to do with the polarity changing round.
Yeah, that's right. And so what it did was you'd have two poles, you know, what was it? I forgot what they call the poles of magnets now, but but you'd have north and south, as it were. So you'd have north on one, south on the other. They'd both be north all the time and would stick together. And then you switched it.
The polarity changed.
So that the polarity became the same, and it tried to slow the vehicle down.
I understand what you mean. It's technical, that, Alan, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but somebody explained it to me years ago. I saw a lorry, and on the back of it had the words Telmar magnetic braking system.
I've never come across it.
No.
I mean, it reminds me of what you're talking about there. Reminds me of the system when years ago when I was a kid, they designed a monorail to run like that, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
By the polarity of the different magnets, and they got motion out of it, didn't they?
They did. In fact, they have exactly that running in Japan, and I think the monorail system that goes out to Gatwick.
Yeah.
I think it's Gatwick, out to the sort of hub from which you fly. I think that is electromagnetically operated. Anyway, there you are. We move on. Thank you very much indeed. Thank
Alan,
you.
nice to speak to you, mate.
And you, sir.
Bye.
Have a good day.
And you, mate. Bye.
Is there anybody that's ever used a Telmar braking system? Am I making this up? It's a Telmar retarder is what it was called. And as I say, it was normally, in normal use, you drove along and because the magnets, the two ends of the magnets as they were, one on each of your drive shafts, because they were opposite poles, because they were same poles, because they were opposite poles, they attracted, so they stuck together, and it just ran like a drive shaft, as if the metal was one piece. And then if you switched the polarity on one of them, they started grumbling and arguing and slowing the vehicle down. It may have been the other way around. I don't quite know how they work. If anyone does, I'd love to know. Particularly if it's a female. I'd be fascinated if a female knew that. No, I'm not being sexist. I'm just pointing out the realities of life. Barry in Moberley. Hiya, Barry.
Hiya, Alan. Just listening to that last chap regarding the Telmar, it is a fantastic system. I have driven a vehicle.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, and there's 3 settings on it. You can slow down, medium and high, and if you put it onto high, it's amazing. I'll tell you where you see them mostly. I see them, I used to be in the transport industry, is on Spanish trucks. And the Spanish trailers or coaches usually have a diff in, you know, a back axle.
A differential, yeah.
Yeah, and that just drives the prop shaft to the Telmar.
Oh, right.
And it's a fantastic system, it really is.
Well, the thing that was...
saves on brakes. I mean, you get over to Spain and you're going down those long hills, you've no brake fade, you flick the Telmar on.
Well, the bloke that was driving this truck that I spoke to, it was an English bloke in an English truck, and he was telling me that the benefit of it was that you weren't using brakes, as it were. You were taking the energy that you already had. But the most important thing was, if you used it as an emergency brake, you weren't stopping the wheels. You were stopping the thing that drove the wheels, so you reduced the chances of skidding. Now, of course, the ABS system has, if you like, altered or diminished the need of that now.
It has.
But nonetheless, yeah, there you go. Anyway, is that why you came on? It can't be.
What I'd rung you for is, interesting to hear you on about trains going down hills and stuff. Now, in Switzerland, they've got a fantastic system. I mean, they've got lots of water there and lots of electricity.
Yeah.
So they can do it right over there. They're good engineers. And if the train goes down the hill, they've got 2 pantographs, and as it's going down the hill, the motors on the electric train turn into dynamos.
Yeah.
Put the power back into the cable. You know, the line above the electric cable, and then as it's coming back up the hill, it's using that energy. So as it's up and down, it's using very, very little energy. Very clever system. And I can't remember what mountain it's on. It's either a Jungfrau or the Simplon, but it's very, very good.
Yeah?
And, of course, they use the rack railway over there, and that slows it down. They need the rack to go down these mountains.
Yes, they do. Have you ever been on one?
Yes,
I mean, they've got one in Manchester. We've got a rack lift, as it were, in Manchester, in the Urbis Centre.
Yes.
But I went on one at the... Now, where is it? It's the Miguel in Wales, where they have the environmental camp, as it were. I can't remember the name of it. It's something like Miguel... Because it's got about 11 L's in it and 4 Y's. No one can pronounce it, even the people there.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, well, I went on these trains over there. It's one of my passions, unfortunately, and it was just absolutely amazing. It just, as it's going downhill, it's pushing power back into the system.
Fabulous.
Like
Sounds
that.
good to me.
It is.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Alan.
Cheers. Barry's driven Telmar. See, I wasn't making it up. Telmar braking system. No, I don't make stuff up. I've no idea what it is, but I don't make it up. So what's the good programme that's on the telly tonight? Asks Paul in Oldham. Apparently I said there's a good programme on the telly tonight. There is. It's called God on Trial, and it's set in a concentration camp.
An accident in Thailand. Now a Bolton mum makes an emotional appeal to get her son home. Manchester Now, tonight at 5.
We should tell him we'll swap him for Shinawatra. 0161 228 2255, Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, or 07786 206 951 to text.
95.1 FM.
DAB Digital Radio.
And the World Wide Web.
This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, Ricky Hatton's former promoter wins more than £100,000 in libel damages. And a rail firm tells drivers to switch off engines when they're going downhill to save fuel.
Manchester United prepared to unveil a new assistant manager.
It's mostly wet and windy this afternoon, with temperatures peaking at a high of 16 Celsius.
Good afternoon, I'm Mark Edwardson. The boxing promoter Frank Warren's been paid £115,000 by the publishers of Ricky Hatton's autobiography. He claimed the book, Ricky Hatton, The Hitman, My Story, made a number of libelous allegations. Warren had been Hatton's promoter. Richard Stead has more.
In his autobiography, Ricky Hatton accused Frank Warren of lying about the sale of TV rights, of making him fight when he wasn't ready, and of falsely telling newspapers he'd paid him millions of pounds. There were a number of pre-trial hearings in October last year, and a trial for libel was due to begin in December. But publishers Random House have now offered to settle out of court for £115,000 plus expenses, and they'll now publish an updated version of the book.
The family of a West Horton man seriously injured on holiday in Thailand after he fell from a moped is facing a bill of thousands of pounds to look after him and bring him home. It's because his insurance company, AXA, say he broke the terms of his agreement. But 21-year-old Ryan Burke's mum, Gaynor, says he had been very careful to hire a moped with a small engine and hadn't been drinking. Now she's got to find almost £20,000 to cover his care and overseas flights.
Well, we've actually paid £6,500 off. The hospital have been fantastic, but it's how it works out. They want their money. If you've had treatment, they want their money. That's how a Thai national pays. It's not. So, but the running cost, it's probably up to 17,000 we're going to have to find.
Scotland's First Minister, Alex Salmond, has said his government will introduce a bill to scrap council tax and replace it with a local income tax. The measure's part of the SNP's legislative plans for the coming year. A resurgence in the economic competitiveness of British cities is being led by Manchester and Salford, according to academics this lunchtime. The University of Wales Institute in Cardiff has found significant improvements amongst the UK's urban areas, but it's the twin cities of Greater Manchester who've seen the biggest improvement since the last survey in 2006. The pound has fallen to its lowest level against the dollar for 2.5 years. At its lowest point in trading this morning, it was worth $1.77. It's still higher than the average over the past 10 years, which is $1.71. A rail company is to ask its drivers to switch off their engines when going downhill to save fuel. First, TransPennine says the plan on its route between Manchester and Leeds will also keep ticket prices down. From Leeds, here's Chris Butler.
First TransPennine Express has just completed tests on the busy and hilly journey between Manchester and Leeds. Drivers were encouraged to turn off their engines and to coast down hills. The company says the tests were successful and it's now putting the idea into daily practice on the route. It insists that what's being done is completely safe and that trains will still arrive in time. It makes business sense too. It's believed up to 2 million litres of diesel a year could be saved, and with the rise in fuel costs, that could help to keep ticket prices down.
And talking of engines, that's a 6-litre engine in the new Wildcat sports car developed by prolific car engine designer Al Melling of Rochdale. He's been involved in developing high-end engines for more than 40 years, and he's currently developing a hand-built Hellcat car. In the meantime, he's developing the Wildcat for purely pragmatic reasons.
And the Hellcat is a big job. It's, it's £90,000 car to well over 200 miles an hour. I wanted an income stream. TVR are gone, Noble's gone, Marcus is gone. So we came up with this car, which is affordable, and it takes everybody back to the 1950s and 60s of true-blooded sports cars.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Steve Wyatt.
We start with some news just in, and Manchester United have named Mike Phelan as their new assistant manager. He steps up from his role as first-team coach to replace Carlos Queiroz, who left the club over the summer to coach Portugal. René Meulenstein takes on the role of first-team coach at Old Trafford. Teddy Sheringham has described Dimitar Berbatov Berbatov's transfer to Old Trafford as a fantastic move. The former England striker, who also left Spurs for United in 1997, says the Bulgarian is the perfect player for United. The live sport on BBC Radio Manchester this afternoon comes at the Riverside, where Lancashire are in the field against Durham on day one of their county championship match. Durham are batting, but a couple of quick wickets before lunch have left them on 100 for 3. England are going for a series whitewash this afternoon. They face South Africa in the final one-day international in Cardiff. A win would lift Kevin Peterson's side to second in the world rankings. And in Rugby League, Wigan Warriors fullback Richie Mathers has signed a contract extension at the JJB, as have Cameron Phelps, Harrison Hansen and Lee Mossop.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Well, it's been a fairly bright day with some good sunny spells around, but I'm afraid this afternoon we're expecting some scattered showers, and some of those showers will be fairly heavy in places as they merge in with a big band of rain blowing in from the Irish Sea. And on top of that, we have got a fairly blustery wind blowing through as well, so it will feel fairly cool when the rain comes, and temperatures will peak at a high of 16 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather.
Oh, good grief, we've done that. Crying out loud.
John Thompson, he knows what he means.
Paradiddle is right, left, right, right. Left, right, left, left. Every day. Yeah, that's paradiddle in the background. So if you sing it, I'll do it. Every day it's getting faster. Try and listen to my beats, Andy, that might help. That's a paradiddle.
John Thompson, he knows what he means.
What was that other group that were ska?
Special, ska, more reggae.
Specials.
Coming like a ghost now. It's always very camp though, guys. Do you remember the good old days before the ghost town?
John Thompson's take on the world.
Very, very low key.
Saturday from 11 on BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. Can I just say, you don't have to talk about cars. You don't have to. In fact, frankly, I don't think there's anything left to say. I take no responsibility, and for anything as it happens, and I don't try to control it, but I'm up to here with cars now. Les in Wilmslow. Hiya, Les.
Hello, Alan. I know you've just said you're not interested. I can recall...
That was hard luck, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's hard luck for me, that is. I can recall, if I'm not mistaken, when I learned to drive on a bus, similar to yourself, and I think it was GMT, Greater Manchester Transport, many years ago, right? Alan?
Oh, yeah, I'm listening.
Sorry, mate. And we had, at the time, X amount of coaches with Helmars on it, and we were shown how to use them, and when you were going down a hill, you used it as a secondary brake, or you could use it as a brake.
Yeah.
That's what I can recall and remember. If it's any use to you.
It is. It just makes me feel that I'm not going doolally. And
well, you're not.
That's quite useful.
Well,
I don't have that feeling much. I usually think I am.
It was just a point, you know, when you said
absolutely.
and nobody else could. I thought, we used to have them many years ago. I'll dig it, but you don't see them now on coaches. I mean, I'm not driving a coach now, so it doesn't matter.
No.
But we used to have them, and we were shown how to do it. You have to do it in stages. You couldn't do it straight away. Else, it would literally stand on its nose. It's like the modern air brake. You stick that on a wagon or something like that, and it'll stand it up straight. You know, your handbrake.
Yeah.
But that's Salmar. That's what it was basically for.
Well, crikey, I learn as I journey. Well, thank you for that. Thank you. You see, I've been reassured. I'm not cracking up. Phil says, the Manchester on Manchester United's badge and ground will be removed as United's 100 years of being a non-Manchester club is celebrated next season. That's from Phil, with not a hint of bitterness. Not a hint. If you turn the engine off on a train... Oh, I see what you mean. If you turn the engine off on a train, the steering won't work, like my car. Yeah, but it's not a big problem on a train, is it, steering? You know what I mean? They don't steer them, so it's not a problem. Turning the train engine off will save fuel, but how do train brakes work, if needed? If a car brakes need the engine to work, does a train? Don't know. Alan, physics and exact science? Once again you jest, because if you can demonstrate or even understand superstring theory, you're a better man than I, says Derek Inley. That's not physics, That's astrophysics. I think the expression he was struggling for was coasting. That's Joe in his taxi, thank you. Yeah. Well, we like to, cover all the bases, I think is the phrase. Dave in Rochdale. Hiya, Dave.
Hi, Alan. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
Nothing to do with cars.
Thank you. Thank you. Bless you, sir. Bless you. Bless you.
No, this is just a funny that happened to me this morning.
All right.
Been to a well-known computer store, won't say the name, to buy some new software for the computer. Picked it off the shelf, went to the counter with my credit card and or my £10, gave it to the lady, and she said, "Sorry, I can't sell you this." I said, "Pardon?" She said, "We haven't got it." I said, "Well, I've got it in my hand." She said, "Yeah, but according to our computer, we haven't got it, so I can't sell it you." And I said, "Hang on, I've got the stuff here. It says £9.99. I've got £10." I said, I'll get the manager." So I got the manager. Said, "No, we haven't got it. You can't sell it you."
Well, you know what you should have said?
Go on.
Well, can I have this empty box then to keep my mouse in?
Well, my wife said, "Well, why don't you nick it? Because they can't do you."
They can't do you. What's he stolen? Where they could nick you for stealing the box?
Yeah.
You should have just said, "Well, thank you very much. It's been very kind of you. You wouldn't mind if I take this box home?"
Yeah.
And if he says, "Yeah, well, we've not got one, so yeah, take the box, no problem."
I think I might go back and try that one.
Well, give it a try. Yeah, you'll have to get in a queue now, though. There'll be 40 people there by now.
I'll tell you what, it just shows you how balmy this world's going.
Oh, it's gone crackers. Gone absolutely crackers. They'll never sell another one. There's a new, now what they call, not the search engine, the thing that does the work, browser.
Oh, yeah.
There's a new browser today. I had to go to Google to look for something earlier. And it said, on my computer at home, it said, download the new browser. Google have brought out their own browser.
Oh.
I know. Apparently you do, Microsoft have got a browser.
Yeah.
And then there's something called Firefox.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, that's supposed to be quick. And this new Google one is supposed to give Microsoft a run for its money.
Oh, right. Oh.
I'm not on money from any of them three, which is rather unfortunate because I could have done with a little bit of a backhand then, giving it a plug like that. But
no,
I was just trying to demonstrate. Yeah.
It just struck me. I thought, oh, in this crazy world we live, it's better than a comedy show.
Yeah. All human life is there. Well, I like that. Well, go back and see if they'll give you the box.
I'll try that. It's a good idea, mate. Nice to talk to you.
And when you're doing it, if it works, can I have a 66-inch plasma telly?
Right, I'll see what I can do for you.
That is brilliant. You know, I've looked on the computer and we've not got one. Anyway, and if we had one, that's that old gag, isn't it? How does it work now? I can never remember old gags. Well, I'm not Jimmy or Eamon, who can only remember old gags. But you say what you like, they're good at that. Where was I? Yeah. So no, and this fella goes into the shop. He goes into the Ford shop. He said, "Can I have a fan belt for my Ford Escort?" And the bloke said, "Of course you can. That'll be £80. He said, £80? £80 for crying out loud. What do you mean, £80? They're only 16 quid at Woolworths. He said, well, we'll get one from Woolworths. So they haven't got any. He said, well, we've got none. Ours are 16 quid. I didn't say it was funny.
Allan Beswick. BBC Radio Manchester.
It is not, says Jeff, who's a serving traffic officer. What does he know? It's not illegal to coast, as you seem determined to say it is. It's highly recommended that you don't, however. All right. And where did he get his Night Rider car from? I could do with one of them. I've no idea what that means. Completely lost. Colin in Bolton, there is a television programme on tonight, Alan, that I think you might be interested in watching. A time-travelling drama about a young woman who is able to enter the story of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, with the possibility of meeting characters like Mr. Darcy. It's called Lost in Austen. ITV, 9 o'clock. Don't know what that means. No idea what that means at all, other than I won't be watching it because I'll be watching the other one on the other side. I might record it if I'm feeling like having a fancy weekend, but the one I'll be watching will be God on Trial. It's a programme. It's a drama, and it's not claiming documentary or anything like that, but it's set in a concentration camp, and it's supposed to be based on a free story, but frankly I think they were a bit busy in the concentration camps to play such games. But It's supposed to be based on a true story, and the idea is that the Jews in the concentration camp, or the inmates, rather than the SS who were running it, ask a perfectly reasonable question of anyone with a belief system, and that is, well, if there's a God, why is he letting this go on? What's happening here? What is going on here? And why is God allowing it to happen if he's supposed to be omnipotent and all the rest of it? And all that. So that's that. Well, that's fine. And the programme's on tonight. And it's a question a lot of people ask, isn't it? And it's that, well, if there is a God, why does he let all the horrible things happen? Keith in Blackpool, what do you reckon to all this banning women playing the didgeridoo? They'll be sending their koala back, letting the abo go loose, I think you mean the aborigine go loose, and doing unmentionables with a boomerang next. I don't know what you mean by that. What I do know is it's not called a didgeridoo. The female version is called a didgeridon't, obviously. It's just a mistake. You know, people didn't realise that the long tube that you blow down was gender-related. Yeah, there are so many gags in there, aren't there? Darren in Wigan, with regard to a previous caller, I agree with you that coasting was an offence 20 years ago, but I believe it's now accepted, and it wouldn't cause you to fail on your test. OK, well, fine, I'm prepared to learn as I go. J. Jeremy, could you tell Alan that the Saab 95 had automatic freewheel? Thank you. Yeah, I don't have to know about Saabs. I don't think I'll ever be able to afford one. Have you heard about the train company urging drivers to coast when going downhill? What amused me, he says, they say this will help keep their ticket prices down. We've got the dearest system in Europe, says David. Yeah. I'm going on the train on Saturday. I am. And then I'm going on it again. Actually, for the first time in donkey's years, I'm going on a bus soon. I know. I've got to go from here on the train to the Lake District, to Windermere, and then I've got to get a bus to Coniston. And I'm leaving on a Saturday morning. I probably won't get there till about a Thursday, will I? Because you know what it's like, public transport. It's absolute rubbish. Anyway, that's like... You know what it is? Nothing I can do about it. I don't make the rules. Several years ago, I was a... Several years ago, I was a passenger in a Ford Capri, returning with a friend from a fishing trip. As we neared home, and atop a steep hill declining into Denshaw, my friend and the driver, that's the same person, decided to turn the ignition off to conserve his fuel. As we approached the bottom of the hill, the road, which until that point was straight, began to curve. And my friend discovered, to his, and frankly my horror, that due to turning off the engine, it inadvertently engaged the steering lock. We mounted the embankment, but luckily escaped, because he managed to turn the key and regain control in the nick of time, narrowly avoiding a dry stone well. A truly nerve-wracking experience, says Jason in Dobcross. When they first brought out the steering lock, there were lots of Italians killed because of their mountainous roads. And you weren't safe. You weren't safe in the flatlands of Italy for fear of small Italian cars flying off the roads and landing on your head. There were loads of them killed. Oh, they were, yeah. But they've improved them now, I'm led to believe. Not the Italians, they're still the same. They need no improvement. They are wonderful, and always have been. Except when they were over here with the Romans, but they weren't Italians in the normal way. But apart from that, I like the Italians, I like Italy. It's a good country. Well, I'd say it's a nice, it's a pretty country. And the food's good. And the people are good. Except they do like children, which I think is always, you have to suspect. No, they do. They love kids. Oh, la bambino! You see them, just people walking down the street with a kid, suddenly they're surrounded by people wanting to touch it and kiss it and speak of it. And dear God almighty. I know. Whatever happened to they should be seen and not heard? Far more sense. Or they should be herded. That's even better. Yeah. Blessed things cluttering up the streets. 0161 228 2255. If you want to join us, that's fine. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And the text, of course, 07786 206 951. And I read in the Independent today, and I'm always entertained by matters relating to how you can save energy. Because in the Independent today, there's an article that says, if you fit solar panels on your roof, you will get your money back in 100 years. I won't be bothering with that then. It's 1:20 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Rachel Ferguson.
The boxing promoter Frank Warren's accepted libel damages of £115,000 from the publishers of Ricky Hatton's autobiography, which Warren claimed contained 3 defamatory allegations. Scotland's First Minister Alex Salmond has promised to abolish council tax as part of his legislative plans for the coming year, and a rail company is asking its drivers to switch off their engines when going downhill on tracks between Manchester and Leeds to save fuel. Manchester's weather: showers, maybe the odd sunny spell, highs of 16 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Take care if you're heading across the Pennines at the moment. It's fairly wet and murky on camera around junction 21 at Milne Road through to 23 at Huddersfield. So, as I say, do take it slowly. Now, let's take a look to the M6, and I'm afraid we still have these speed restrictions of 50 miles per hour on the carriageway between junction 19 at Knutsford and junction 20 at Lymm. It's because of a damaged bridge in the area that's scheduled to be removed on Saturday night this week. So, for the time being, those speeds have been set for safety reasons. And if you're heading through Dobb Cross in the Oldham area, Dobb Cross New Road's closed off whilst bridge maintenance work continues between Wool Road and Woods Lane, with the diversion taking you via Standedge Road on the A670 and Huddersfield Road on the A62. Don't forget, if you can update me further, call in on 0161244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
2020 traffic means you get an update every 20 minutes through the day.
Hiya. Are you okay? Good. On the subject of we're not selling you that, because we haven't got one, which was quite good, from Dave. Derek says, Sainsbury's once refused to sell me a bunch of flowers because they'd gone past their sell-by date. I said I wanted to look at them, not eat them. And then Janice in Altrincham, yeah, if you drive down the electric Bray in Ayrshire, would this save fuel? Try Googling it, she says. No, I don't think I'm going to try and Google it. I'm a bit wary of Googling. And Colin in Bolton, Lost in Austin is the name of the programme. Not this programme, obviously. The one that he was telling me about earlier. That's supposed to be good. They should leave the engines on trains. It might make them arrive on time. I can just hear the announcement now. The train arriving at platform 3 will be here when they've coasted from Buxton. Very good. I don't know why they're coasting. Yeah, I know. Coasting, does it help save fuel? These days, coasting is still inadvisable. And changes in vehicle fuel system means it won't save you any fuel either. Old car with carburettor, Mark Edwardson explained this to me. But this had been sent to me by Keith, but Mark Edwardson told me all about it a few moments ago. Old car with carburettor, take your foot off the accelerator pedal. Yeah, it's all there. Take your foot off the accelerator pedal with the car in gear and fuel is still drawn through into the engine. Fuel savings could be made by coasting out of gear. Modern car with electronic engine management, fuel and ignition systems are effectively combined and controlled by one ECU, an electronic control unit. Take your foot off the accelerator and the ECU cuts the fuel supply to the injectors anyway, so there's nothing to be gained by coasting. Modern diesel engines, they also have the ability to shut off the fuel when you take your foot off the accelerator. All right. I don't want to sound in any way like an editor, but I think we've done that subject now. Rivka in Prestwich. Hiya.
Hi, I don't know much about coasting. I know about coasters that you put on the table to put your drinks on.
Very useful.
aren't they?
Very, very useful.
Couple of things I wanted to tell you. Number one, with regards to that gentleman who was on saying that he couldn't buy the thing that was in his hand,
Yes.
I was in a shop not so long ago. It's not quite as silly, but it seems fairly silly to me. I was in a shop, wanted something. They said they didn't have it in, but they could order it for me. And I said, well, can you order it to come to this store? And they could order it to go to a different store, but they couldn't order it to go to the store that I was in.
Right. One wonders how useful that facility is.
Yeah, exactly. So, if I want to go a few miles down the road, fine, and I don't drive myself, but I can't get it where I wanted to get it from, it seems a bit tough to me.
Very, very droll. Yeah.
The other thing, which is more to the point, I rang up about traffic wardens. I've been meaning to speak to you about this for a bit.
Okay.
I was walking down the road the other day, saw a couple of traffic wardens sat in their car on a double yellow.
Yeah.
And I went over to them, and I said to them, excuse me, do you know that you're... I knew they knew what they were doing. I was being facetious. And I said, do you know where you're sitting? And they said, yes. And I said, well, do you know what that is? And they said, yeah, it's a double yellow. And I said, well, why are you allowed to sit on a double yellow? And they said, oh, because we want to give him down the road a ticket because he's sitting on a double yellow. I just wondered if you know why traffic wardens are allowed to sit on double yellows when the rest of us aren't.
Yes, well, why? No, I don't know why, but I do know that they are, and I suspect the thinking behind it is that they are... if they... I mean, in Manchester, for example, if they wanted to book somebody for being on a double yellow line, they'd have to park 4 mile away.
Right.
By the time they got back, he'd gone.
Yeah.
So they are allowed to park on double yellow lines whilst dealing... What they're not allowed to do is to park up and then go wandering about the place, because that's parking. But they can rest the car, as it were, on a double yellow line whilst they're actually carrying out the duty of booking somebody.
Right. Well, this car seemed to be parked there. It was parked on the corner of a road. Apart from me, there wasn't another person either walking or in a car. There was nobody else to be seen either walking or in a car. And I didn't see anybody actually carrying it. And he said they were booking somebody over there, wherever that's supposed to mean. But they didn't seem to be doing anything other than just sitting there in the car.
Well, I mean, what does one say? They are permitted to do it within limited circumstances, but frankly, I suspect not many people will sit there and make sure that they obey those circumstances in order to take revenge.
No.
Although it is tempting sometimes.
But does that mean that they can sit there as long as... are you saying, sorry, that they can sit there as long as they want, or they can only sit there while they're doing their job?
Well, the rules, as I understand it, the regulations are not precise. They are permitted to park, to put the vehicle at rest, to park it on a double yellow line, whilst they carry out their duties.
Right.
But that doesn't mean, as I say, they're allowed to arrive at work, as it were, pick up the vehicle, park it on a double yellow line, and then go on a foot patrol. But they are allowed to park in a position that would be for others illegal, whilst they're in the process of issuing the ticket and possibly even mounting an observation. So they have, in that respect, and only that respect, they have the sort of protection against prosecution that the police have.
So they can sit... So, in other words, you're saying that they can sit there and look at what's going on for as long as they want to. Is that what we're saying?
Well, the answer to that question is no, because there isn't a definition. There is not a precise statement, they're allowed 10 minutes, quarter of an hour.
Right.
They are allowed the amount of time it takes within reason. And who will judge the reason?
Yeah.
Well, that would be the courts, I suppose.
Sure. OK, well, nice talking to you. I'm enjoying the show. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. 0161228 2255. Ted in Moston says, curse Bill Gates and Internet Explorer. Apparently that's what the browser's called. He says, currently I'm using Firefox. I say this in the hope that I may receive some free software, says Ted. Well, you may do, Ted, but they haven't got your address. Fortunately, they have got mine. So if anybody's getting freebies, it'll be me. But thank you for your endeavour. And he also says, I like the Italians. My favourite politician was an Italian. Rest in peace, Benito Mussolini. Yeah. Ted, why am I not surprised that you like Benito? But his reputation says that he made the trains run on time. I've heard that challenged since then, but frankly, it's not much of a bonus. Hi, Alan. If Rolf Harris can say Abo in his song, then so can you. Well, yes, I can. I just choose not to, because I don't think it's polite. And you know how polite I like to be. Contrary to what you said, there is more to say about cars. I was just practising not saying it, but I suppose I'll have to say it. Do you remember overdrive fitted to gearboxes? Was it anything like overcoat? I wonder why it was abandoned in favour of more manual gears. I once had an Umber Hawk, he says, fitted with overdrive on the 3rd and 4th gears, effectively giving 6 separate gear ratios. A switch fitted to the steering column allowed you to electrically switch between an overdrive gear and normal. It was so quick and easy to use that when I next got a car with manual 5 gears, I thought, why wasn't it 4 plus overdrive? Was cost the reason it was abandoned? I wonder, it being so much easier to have a single gearbox. Brian? I understood the word overdrive. I've seen it on cars. I don't think I've ever used it. And frankly, I probably won't get the opportunity to now. And probably won't miss it either, as it happens. Oh, wait. Kevin says, you're getting far too technical. All vehicles don't perform the same. Generally, automatic transmission gearboxes in cars don't provide engine braking. They work through a ratchet-type system. To complicate matters, braking retarders were fitted to commercial vehicles are made up of an aluminium disc fixed to the drive shaft, which turns through a fixed electromagnet. When the magnet's switched on, the aluminium disc is slowed, and thus so is the vehicle, because aluminium will not pass through a magnetic field. Rubbish, I hear you say! Aluminium is not magnetic! No, it isn't. But it is affected by magnetism. It's a good trick when you see it proven, says Kevin. I don't think they're going to be putting it on at the Manchester Evening News Arena. Come and watch the magnet. Slow down the aluminium. No, they're not, are they? Yeah. What is the bray? The electric bray in Ayrshire? Does anyone know, apart from Janice? Because I think she'll have gone now, because I think I might have upset her when I said I'm not bothering with that. So she might have gone. So can somebody now tell me what the electric bray is in Scotland? Or, for that matter, anywhere else? Just a thought. Wouldn't your steering lock up if you turned your engine off in transit? That's Mick in Tameside. The answer's yes, because we had that bloke earlier with his experience in the Capri and very nearly out of the Capri. Yeah. I have a theory. It doesn't really apply these days because you can't check it. But I once checked, and every time I saw somebody driving a Capri, I had a look, and they all had bald heads. Not completely bald as a coot like you've got now, shaved off and all that, but actually very thinning hair. It was true. I'm not making it up. It was absolutely true. Dear Alan, extract from the Highway Code. Maybe some of the people ringing in would do well to obtain a copy and read it. Dave in Tottington. And then he quotes Rule 22, which incidentally, Dave, if you're paying attention, I read out earlier from my very own copy of the Highway Code. I have one in here, along with a load of other books. So there you are. So Dave in Tottington, thank you for that. Coasting, the term describes a vehicle travelling in neutral or with the clutch pressed down. It can reduce driver control because A, engine braking is eliminated. B, vehicle speed down will increase quickly. C, increased use of foot brake can reduce its effectiveness. D, steering response will be affected, particularly on bends and corners. E, it may be more difficult to select the appropriate gear when needed. Thank you. But thank you for doing it. Thank you for doing it. Yeah. We're always grateful when people help us out. Yeah. Jackie, you've rung us. We're trying to ring you, but we can't. Something's gone haywire. Have you still got your phone in your hand? Oh, it's ringing now. Brr, 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 brr. We don't know what happened. We've no idea. We rarely do. Oh, so you're only interested in the driver's seat and the wheel in front of it, are you? Spoken like a true bus driver, says Kevin. That's very harsh. When I was in the motor trade, he said, it was generally accepted that braking in a motor vehicle using only the brakes and not using engine braking was a preferred method because it's cheaper to repair and replace brake parts than repair or replace engines and gearboxes. Well, that's probably true, isn't it? Hey, can anyone explain this bit where you see lorries going down the road and they've got, you know, if they've got 3 axles and the very rear axle is lifted off the ground when the lorry's empty. Now, surely that means there's more pressure on the other tyres, so wears them out. Somebody will have done the sums, I'm sure, but does that really work? I mean, presumably, it's I saw one the other day, you may have seen them, they're driving along, you've got 4 wheels, 2 axles, 4 sets of wheels on the floor, and the last one at the back, because he's now on the lorry, is lifted up with a little jack device. No, jack, I said. No, not Japanese. No, I didn't say a little jack device. I wouldn't say that. A little jack device. It lifts up the back, so it goes along. But surely that means the weight on the 4 tyres is more, thus wearing them out even quicker. I don't know. It didn't. When I saw it, it struck me that that's not going to save anything. Does it? Jackie in St Helens, hello.
Hello, Alan.
What can we do for you?
Well, I was just wondering about your electric berets.
Oh, right. The electric bray. Well, you seem to say they're plural now.
Well, there are a few. They're all in different parts of the world. There's one in is it Nova Scotia, and there's one in Scotland, and I think there's one in Britain somewhere, in England somewhere. It's you appear to be going downhill, is it? And you're actually going uphill. You go to prove it to yourself, you go to a certain spot, you turn your engine off and you leave your car and it runs down. That's right, so you go down.
Yeah.
But if you do it on a bike, it completely eradicates that because you're pedalling when you're not expecting to. It's a reversing thing, really. It's an illusion.
Right. There's a place in, just north of Ormskirk, and it's a house.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go inside the house, it looks like the floor. If you stand with your back against one wall, you get the impression that the floor rises away from you.
Mm.
But if you put a ball on the floor, it rolls away from you, and the impression is of it rolling uphill.
It's the same impression. It's the same thing. It's the fact that it appears to do that, but in actual fact, if you see people cycling it, it kind of takes away all the illusion.
Yeah, well, yes, it would, wouldn't it, really? Yeah,
because you're thinking you're coasting and they're pedalling like mad, you know.
Yeah, how very extraordinary.
There are a number of them. And I say it's just an illusion, but it's quite fascinating when you do it.
And why are they called electronic brays?
Well, there's electronic brays or reversing brays, reversing hills, or different. You know, it's just given different praise. It's like the bore, you know, on the water on the river.
Oh yes,
where the bore goes
like
up.
The Severn bore.
Yes, yeah. It's the same time. It's that takes up the water and seems to reverse right up, and it only happens at certain times. But this is something that's there all the time. I have got pictures of it.
Right.
I'll send you some if I can find them.
Oh.
And it just gives you instructions how to do it. But it is, as I say, if you do it in a car, it's fascinating. But if you walk it or do it on a bike, it takes away all your illusion.
You lose the effect, don't you? Because your legs send the message. I don't care. The brain's saying, we're going downhill, you know. The eyes are saying, we're going downhill there. No, we bloody aren't. I'm struggling here.
But it's like you said. It's like you said with the floor.
Well, thank you for that, Jackie. Thank you.
Right, Alan.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You got a little insight, then, into how the Beswick machine works. You know, the brain sees something, the eyes see something, the brain works it all out, says, yeah, it's one of them. I'm not very good with them trompe doors. You know, a trompe door. You know what a trompe door is? Yeah, well, an optical illusion, basically. The most famous trompe door is that violin at Chatsworth. You know the one behind the door? And you think, bloody hell, Why have they put that violin behind that door? And they haven't. It's a painting of a violin behind a door. It's an optical illusion. The other one, now who was it? Hang on. Picture of Henry VIII with a skull on it. Now let me think. Holbein. Was it Holbein? It might have been Holbein. Tell me if it wasn't. Holbein did a trompe door with a... When you look at it at one angle, you just see funny white lines if it's an emblem on a tablecloth or something. And when you look at it again, in another angle, it's a skull. It's called a trompe door. It's very clever. I don't know the point of them. They don't have a point. No, they're just for entertainment value. There's a lot of entertainment value about. None here, obviously. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and you can text 07786 206 951. Let's get the news at 20 to 2. News headlines. Rachel Ferguson.
The family of a West Horton man seriously injured on holiday in Thailand after he fell from a moped is facing a bill of thousands of pounds to look after him and bring him home, as his insurance company AXA say he broke the terms of his agreement. A rail company is to ask its drivers to switch off their engines when going downhill on tracks between Manchester and Leeds to save diesel. And Scotland's First Minister Alex Salmond has said his government will introduce a bill to scrap council tax and replace it with a local income tax. It's part of the SNP's legislative plans for the coming year. Manchester's weather: showers, maybe the odd sunny spell, but highs of just 16 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Take care if you're travelling over the Pennines this afternoon. Had quite a few heavy downfalls of rain over the past couple of hours, leaving the road conditions, I should say, in the area quite treacherous. So once again, take it carefully between Junction 18, Somerset Island, and Junction 22 at Bishworth Moor. Now, not doing too badly on the M6. It seems to be coping fairly well through this restricted area between Junction 19 at Knutsford and Junction 20 around the Lim interchange. Now, of course, there's a bridge in the area that's unsafe, so at the moment, that speed restriction is there for safety reasons. It's due to be demolished on Saturday this week between Junction 19 and Junction 20. And if you're heading along the M60 at the moment, traffic seems to be moving fairly well on camera, not doing too badly between Junction 18, Somerset Island, through towards Junction 23. And don't forget, if you can update me further, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
Manchester Sports with Steve Wyeth on BBC Radio Manchester.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Steve Wyeth, and a roundup of the sport for you now. Manchester United have named Mike Phelan as their new assistant manager. He's promoted from first-team coach to replace Carlos Queiroz, who left this summer to take over the Portugal national team. René Moulenstein, who was already on the coaching staff at Old Trafford, becomes the new first-team coach. Well, Teddy Sheringham has described Dimitar Berbatov's £30 million plus move to Old Trafford as a fantastic decision by the club. The former England striker, who also left Spurs for United in 1997, says the Bulgarian is the perfect player for United.
In his own way, he's very critical of himself and his players, but there'll be no need to be critical at Man United, so I'm sure he'll love it. It's an absolutely fantastic move for him, and I think exactly the same for the club as well. He's the perfect player for what they need. I've loved watching him for the last couple of years at Tottenham. I think he's a fantastic talent, and he sort of glides around in his own sort of time, but he makes it look so effortless, but gets the results as well, and I think it's a great move for all concerned.
Well, United legend Bobby Charlton is to be given the Freedom of Manchester. He'll be granted the highest honour the city can bestow for his association with United and the city that spans over half a century as a player, director and ambassador. Plans to grant the British Olympic cycling team, who are based in Manchester, the same honour have also been discussed. United goalkeeper Ben Foster continues his comeback from injury against Bury in the Manchester Senior Cup this afternoon. Youngster Rafael da Silva, who's made a first-team appearance this season, also starts. Glyn Hurst, Steve Haslam and Danny Ratchie are in the Shakers team. Kick-off at Gig Lane is in around about 15 minutes' time. Manchester City's trip to Cyprus in the UEFA Cup on September the 18th will now kick off at 6 o'clock UK time. The return on Thursday the 2nd of October will start at 7:45. The weekend's match at Liverpool will, of course, now be played on Sunday the 4th at 3 o'clock. Pardon me, England have dropped 1 place to 15th in the latest FIFA World Rankings. They're now just 1 place ahead of Scotland. Northern Ireland stay 32nd. Wales are down 2 to 53rd. European champions Spain retained top spot, whilst Italy replaced Germany in second. Now, the live sport on BBC Radio Manchester this afternoon comes at the Riverside, where Lancashire are in the field against Durham on day 1 of the county championship. An early breakthrough for Lancs, plus another couple before lunch, had them well in contention at the break. What's the news of the afternoon session? Let's ask Chris Malaband.
Durham are now 136 for threes. They've added another 36 since the lunch interval. Will Smith has gone to an excellent 50. He's on 53, and with him, captain Dale Benkenstein is on 21. It was a curious morning session, with Lancashire second best for long periods, but they went in with 3 wickets in the bank. 2 of them, though, run-outs. One a bizarre one when Michael DiVenuto drove the ball straight back up the pitch, saw it bounce off Mark Stoneman's feet at the non-striker's end, fielded by Stephen Croft in the cover. DiVenuto run out. Then Stoneman himself was also run out. A brilliant throw by Dominic Cork on the turn, accounting for the opener for 47. Tom Smith then picked up Shivnarine Chanderpaul LBW for naught as Lancashire started to fight back. But this partnership between Smith and Benkenstein is just starting to take things away from them again. No Gary Keady in the side today. Lancashire have work to do this afternoon, with Durham 136 for 3.
Regular updates from Chris throughout the day. Rugby League news finally, and Wigan fullback Richie Mathers has signed a contract extension at the JJB, as have Cameron Phelps, Harrison Hansen and Lee Mossop.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
Cricket for you throughout the afternoon today, and then on Friday, will St Helens be crowned the Super League winners? Well, they will do if they beat Wigan. Follow the game on Manchester Sports from 7.
BBC Radio Manchester.
The place in Wales is Machynlleth. There. You're an honorary Welshman now, but don't worry, it'll wear off. Talking of cars not being under control, my car once had broken down and the garage man had come out to give me a tow. This was in the early days of steering wheel locks, and as we entered a pair of right-angled bends at the bottom of the road, I thought, why have I got the ignition keys in the lock? It's not necessary. It's a good job there was nothing coming in either direction. The 2 vehicles ended up slewed right across the road. It's a great word, slewed, isn't it? Slewed. Well, I do like the word lewd. And, of course, shrewd is just lewd with an S. Somebody else said, oh, well, I'm only reading it out. Don't be picking on me. Somebody just rung in and said you mispronounced it. I'm just reading it out. You can't blame me. It's Welsh. No one can pronounce it. Dear God, what are you doing?
We've got to warn the Earth, Jones.
Yes, Montgomery. People must switch to digital TV before it's too late.
In one of 3 easy ways. Convert the TV themselves with a digital set-top box.
Or get satellite cable or broadband TV installed.
Or get a new TV with digital built-in.
If they don't, the consequences will be dire.
Well, for a start, they won't get to watch us dealing with Earth-saving situations in a calm yet authoritative manner.
Good point, Monty. Good point. Cheers.
Go to digitaluk.co.uk and get set for digital.
Or better still, stick to radio. We're having no truck with all that digital crap. Nah. David says, to hell with freewheeling. The more fuel used, the more money for city transfers. Well, because them Arab chaps have bought it, haven't they? Yeah, and they get all their money from oil. Hi, Mr. B. I went to a local supermarket because I wanted a sheet of red wrapping paper. I found one and took it to the till. I was told, we can't sell you that, it's Christmas stock. Oh, dear God. Can't sell you that, no, that's for Christmas. Well, you could get some more in for Christmas. I'll have this bit. No, I can't sell you that, it's for Christmas. Yeah. What if I ordered a turkey? Can I have some turkey drumsticks? I love it. We're laughing at shop assistants. We're getting our own back a bit. Alan, re-lorry's having the rear axle off the ground. It isn't a spare in case the Cherokes are after you. I've been in that house near Ormskirk too. It was a crooked cottage on Southport Pleasure Beach. No, it wasn't. Wasn't a crooked cottage on Southport Pleasure Beach. Ross in Stockport. I've got overdrive on my Fiesta. I've used it once, and me revs went up through the roof. I don't dare touch it again with fuel costing so much. That's from Russ. or as he's known by his friends in Stockport, tightwad. And it does so suit. I'm not looking at that, I don't care. No. It's near Troon in Scotland. If you ever check it out, it's great. It's like being drunk without alcohol. So absolutely nothing then. That's John in Stockport. I've got overdrive on my Fiesta. Oh, I've read that once. Oh, now, the wheels. Now, this is interesting. I've never heard this before. The wheels, the back wheels, the rearest of axles being lifted off. Yeah? Yeah. Those... keeps jumping about. Every time I try and read it, it dodges me. It's on the move. Those wheels that lift up are called lift axles, and the mechanism to actuate them is powered by air. The purpose is to reduce wear, and when not bearing a load, it increases braking and traction on the remaining tyres. Oh, I can understand that, because I did think it would increase traction. That's why I thought it might be a bit... it might not save any money, as it were. But it reduces wear on the tyres, but presumably increases the wear on the others. I don't know. But there's another theory. This is from Karen, and she says, I seem to recall from my job in haulage many moons ago that it was to do with the VED, Vehicle Excise Duty. They get taxed less for fewer axles. There's a separate taxation class for these vehicles where the axle can be raised. So your vehicle excise duty in them days, if Karen's memory is correct, was geared, if you'll pardon that unfortunate pun, is geared to the number of operative axles. So you've got 3 axles when you're loaded, 2 when you're unloaded, so your vehicle excise duty would be reduced. Exactly, because you're unloaded coming back most of the time, aren't you? Unless you've got a really, really good traffic manager. Anyway, yeah, so there it is. Fantastic. Got it all worked out. Brilliant, if it's true. Chris in Wigan.
Hello, Mr. Beswick.
Hello, Chris.
You must be desperate to ring me up about something like this.
I thought you rang me.
Well, I did, but you all have rung me as well. It's not
well, that's what we do.
Right. It's not Trompe d'Or, it's Trompe l'œil.
Trompe l'œil, that's it, you're right. Well,
l'œil is the French for eye, and I said as an honorary a Warringtonian Frenchman, you should know that.
I should. I'll tell you another reason I should.
And the picture is not a painting of Henry VIII, it's a painting of the ambassadors.
And
is it Holbein.
Well, I was nearly there. My wife.
And as you correctly say, from a certain angle, it's a popular sort of Renaissance emblem, which reminds you that in the midst of all this wealth and splendour and so on, that death awaits.
Well, I do get the implication of the painting, and I should have been more accurate. And
no, well, listen, you've got an awful lot of stuff to remember, so I'll let you off on that one.
Well, you're very kind, but I don't think Mrs. Beswick will, because she's an art historian.
All right.
And when I get home, not that she listens, but if she was listening, I'd be in trouble now for making it wrong. But that's all right. Have you seen that violin? At Chatsworth?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's very good. It really does work.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Have a good
Cheerio,
day.
Bye-bye.
0161 228 2255. Chris is usually putting the world to rights, and on this occasion he limited himself to just me and put me to rights instead. And it does need to be done. The best way to brake is to use the car in front. Neil in Bebington. I know a bloke what did that. He ran in the back of me. Yeah, it cost him 2 teeth and a shed full of money. The electric bay is one of them optical illusions. It appears to be going downhill, but is actually going up, or is it the other way round? I suppose it depends which way you go. So when you appear to be going uphill, you're coasting downhill. Okay. And Terry's sent me a website with it on, but I can't be going to that, it'd get too complicated. Lifting the wheels off, we've done the scrub bit. It reduces wheel scrub. We've had a sort of motorised Beswick today, haven't we, really? Yeah. Oh, I see. The electric Bray is a gravity hill in Ayrshire, which is in Scotland, for those that don't know where Ayrshire is. Well, you probably still don't know, but we at least have narrowed it down to a part of the world, Scotland, where everything's cheaper. Googling it, it seems to be more to do with raising the axle when it's needed, when the vehicle's empty, so that it's not wearing the tyres or other bits. This is after you've sent me a Mickey. Karen sends me the one about vehicle exercise duty. I read it out, and then she says, no, I've had another look. It's not that at all. Well, that's... I've been tricked. I feel cheated now. I do. I'm rent asunder. I used to be able to trust her. You could rely on her for good stuff. But there you are. Well, they all let you down in the end. Oh, dear, dear, dear. We had one of them and the wheels came off. Yes, that's not funny. Not funny at all. Not even nearly. The electric bray, known locally as Croy Bray. This runs the quarter of the mile from the bend overlooking Croy Railway Viaduct in the west, 286 feet above Ordnance Day Turn, to the wooded Craig Glen, 303 feet. Yeah, to the east. Whilst there is the slope of 1 in 86 upwards from the bend at the glen, the configuration of the land on either side of the road provides an optical illusion, making it look as if the slope is going the other way. Slopey, slopey. Therefore, a stationary car on the road with the brakes off will appear to move slowly uphill. The term electric... Oh, I can't read anyway. Oh, I'll go a bit further. The term electric bray dates from a date when it was incorrectly thought to be a phenomenon caused by electric or magnetic attraction within the bray. Good God. Well, thank you for that. I'm now fully informed. We've sorted it out today, haven't we? We've done the lorries. We've learnt about Telmar. We've found out you can't buy stuff in shops that they've not got, even if they've got it. No, that is a tricky one to get your hand round, but don't worry. Eamon in Oldham says, you'll like this, you will, honest. First of all, it's got knowledge in it. We like knowledge. And then it's got a little sting in the tail. About shops not selling things because they don't have them. Shops now have EPOS. EPOS means electronic point of sale. EPOS. EPOS. Shops now have EPOS systems. If the item ain't on the system or showing nil in stock, they can't sell it. Some time ago, my wife and I bought a toilet seat from a large DIY store, which was reduced, the seat, to clear, as it was the last one. When we got to the till, it wasn't the last one at all. It wasn't on the system. So the cashier shouted across to another operator for help in the time-honoured cashier way. She couldn't understand why we cracked off laughing when the other operator shouted back, toilet seat that they've not got. So you imagine it. Right, I want this toilet seat. Well, you can't have it. Why not? We haven't got one. Yes, we have. I've got it in my hand here. It's in my hand, look. I can put my hand through it like Thomas and the hole in his side. I've got it here. It's a bog seat. You've got it. I know, but it's not on the system. Well, I still want it. Right, well, I'll have to ask my friend. Mabel! Mabel! He wants to buy this bog seat. What we haven't got, but he's got it in his hand. What do I do? Mabel shouts back. You'll have to use a dump code. Eamon says it still makes me chuckle. I'm not surprised, Eamon. It made me chuckle too. Now, I don't know why half of all female till operative shopkeeper stuff, I don't know why half of them are called Mabel. It's just the way it is. Bill in Royton, with your item on motoring a little while ago, do you know what the current regulations or guides are regarding signalling? I asked this because there seems to be less and less signalling done by drivers, and since I passed my driving test many, many years ago, I'm wondering if the rules have changed. Bill in Royton. Well, no, they haven't. Well, they have, actually. They have, because you don't do hand signals. Not even them. You don't do hand signals on the driving test anymore, do you? We rely on the electronics. Do you remember the first indicators? They were like little orange ears on the roof of the car. It looked like a teddy bear with tiny ears. They were ever so pretty. Them were the days. And then you had them little light bulbs for parking in the dark. See you tomorrow. Ta-ra now.
Join me, Matt.